Hi guys, Steve Blankard here again. Hey, I've got another antique rifle to show you. This is a rather unusual musket. Now, I'm sure many of you are familiar with typical Civil War muskets. You look at this one, it's not one you see very often. This is a model 1861 Plymouth Navy musket. It is 69 caliber rifled musket. And it's an interesting history, and I'm not going to go into all of it, but this was developed by Commander, later Captain, later Rear Admiral John Dahlgren, specifically for naval use. He designed it, copying basically a French naval carbine, and he made it just for sailors to use when they were acting as naval infantry ashore, or for boarding parties when they were boarding enemy ships. It's the only musket, the U.S.-made musket, that was built as brand new as a 69 caliber rifled musket. Now, many of the older smoothbores were rifled later on, but this was built from scratch as a rifled musket, and it has a very heavy barrel, much heavier than, you can see this, much heavier than an old smoothbore that's been rifled. It's short, it's only a 34-inch barrel, has a very heavy ramrod. His idea was that soldiers or sailors don't need to carry, they don't have to worry about the extra weight. They're not marching a long distance, they're fighting. He wanted them to have a heavy caliber gun that could shoot through bulwarks and be very effective. And so he designed this. It went through several iterations, but by 1861, Whitney got a contract to build. Basically, about 10,000 of these were built for the Navy. They were delivered in 63 and 1864 and were issued to many Navy ships. So without further ado, we're going to load and shoot this guy. So I've made up some cartridges. Now, if you haven't seen a 69 caliber mini, it's a big bullet. It's 730 grains by weight, and the standard service cartridge is 70 grains of black powder. So I've made up some paper cartridges to simulate or emulate the original cartridges that soldiers and sailors had back in those days. So I'm going to open that up. I'm going to pour the powder charge down. And I'm going to tear it open to get the bullet out. Now, just so you can see this bullet before I load it, you can see that's a pretty big piece of lead there. So I'm going to drop that down the bore. And soldiers, sailors were always taught to return the ramrod, because if you lay it on the ground and you go to fighting, you end up moving and lose your ramrod, then your musket becomes nothing but a club. Okay, I'm going to prime it. Actually, before I prime it, let me put my eyes and ears on. Okay, so I'm set up. I'm just a short range here, just got a target 25 yards away, so we're going to take a shot or two at it. I'm not much of an offhand shot, but we'll have some fun with it. All right, here we go. A little bit of recoil with it. All right, let's go ahead and load one more. I can't say that I've read any accounts of sailors shooting these and their impression, but I have read accounts of soldiers shooting the rifled 69 caliber smoothbores that had been rifled later on, and they were not popular. The soldiers did not really care for them. The recoil was pretty fierce with this heavy bullet and a large powder charge. And it wasn't particularly accurate, not as accurate as the 58 caliber minis that most of the newer muskets during the war used. But the original 69 caliber load was a buck and ball load, one large ball, 3 pieces of buckshot, and that was over 110 grains of powder. But when they developed the 69 caliber mini, they reduced the powder charge to 70 grains. So let's take one more shot with it. All right, wasn't that neat? Now, one of the identifying features you ever see when he's laying around, it's the only musket that I've seen, except perhaps the French one they copied, that has this extra little finger piece on the trigger plate in the bottom here. And that's just so you get a better grip on it. Remember, these sailors had to climb masts and do a lot of things. They wanted to have a good grip, so he added this extra finger piece on the bottom of it, which is pretty unique. Now, one other little piece of trivia I'll give with it. You know, John Dahlgren, he was mostly noted for designing his big cannons, the shipboard cannons and ordnance of many types, but he was actually a very prolific designer. But one thing he felt very strongly about was that sailors should have a Bowie knife for when they were doing boardings, on guard duty. He felt the Bowie knife was an integral part of should be part of their weaponry. So he designed a Bowie knife for their use. Well, he submitted it to the naval hierarchy, and the hierarchy said, no, you don't need a Bowie knife, no. So he went back and he thought he still wanted it. So what he did is he took that Bowie knife and he modified it a little bit to make it a bayonet. So the Bowie knife actually goes on to the Plymouth rifle. And then he resubmitted it to the ordnance, to the naval hierarchy, and they approved it because it was a bayonet. He never intended for it to be used on the Plymouth rifles. They actually were designed for use with a long saber bayonet, which they were issued with. But they also made these, and they were made to go on it so we could get them passed. So this is how he got his Bowie knives approved for use by his sailors. So a little piece of extra trivia for you. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you like the video, please like it. Subscribe to my channel. We'll be doing some more antique firearms videos as the time moves on. I think it's a lot of fun. People seem to enjoy it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.